This is National Post Radio on Canada Talks, Sirius XM 167.
Good morning, Tasha Carradine of the National Post, sitting in for my colleague Matt Gurney. Well, Matt missed a really, I hate to say juicy story, but the juicy story of Ashley Madison is actually turning into a bit of a horror show. As anyone who's been watching the news lately knows, the Toronto-based infidelity website, basically a cheater's website, which encouraged people to have an affair because life is short, was hacked, and the data, all sorts of data, including credit card information, names, web addresses, email addresses, as well as sexual preferences, have been spread far and wide over what's called the dark web, a part of the internet that you can't directly access by servers, but usual servers, but that this information has been leaking out to the general public. And of course, people are also now extorting people who are on this list, threatening to reveal the information about them, which is now out there. There have been reports of 2 potential suicides potentially linked to this, online hate crimes and scams. This is becoming a real mess. And not only is it a mess, of course, for all the people involved in this, but it makes us think twice about the impact, the potentially really terrible impact of infidelity. And that's what we want to talk about this morning. Will the Ashley Madison hacking incident affect our relationships? Could there actually maybe even be a silver lining here in that it might tell us and give us the message that cheating is not okay? To talk about that with us today, we're joined by Nicole McCants. She's a psychologist. Welcome to the show, Nicole.
Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, what was your reaction when you heard about the Ashley Madison hack? Did you think, wow, this is going to have the kind of repercussions that it has had so far?
Yes, I think that there was a lot of very nervous people on the day that the names were leaked, and it has had a devastating impact on relationships. However, your point about the silver lining, I think a lot of us are thinking about our relationships in the last couple of days, even having those difficult conversations, or at least my clients are, thinking about would I expect my spouse's name to be on there, and if so, why, and just really reflecting on the happiness and the satisfaction in their relationships.
Well, obviously, a lot of people, though, were not satisfied because this site was a gold mine, which is why, obviously, the company that owned it did not shut it down. The millions of people who were on this looking for infidelity, looking for adultery. So what does that say about the state of modern relationships, too? Is the fact that Ashley Madison was so successful?
Interestingly, I do believe that infidelity usually is a symptom that something else is clearly going on in the relationship, particularly a site like this where it's quite premeditated. So infidelity is never a good thing, but a site like this, it's unique because they sought it out. It's not something that just happened, right? So I intentionally went on a site, I paid to have physical relations with a stranger. So almost all of the time there's relationship dissatisfaction. I hear from clients that are on sites like this that they feel neglected and that, they're not getting enough intimacy with their partner, so they're going to go seek it out with strangers.
Now, this site was a bit unique in that it promoted itself. It had ads, saying life is short, have an affair. They had ads people were very offensive, in fact, of a man sitting there making a song up about cheating on his wife, almost legitimizing the notion of adultery. Is it more accepted? Because it seems to be now that the site's been hacked, clearly the repercussions show that there is still a big problem with it. But did this site, and in general, these kinds of sites, were they actually legitimizing or making it more acceptable to cheat on your spouse?
Well, I think nowadays, times have kind of changed. Having open relationships are more common, doing things like swinging, these kind of sites. 32 million people were on the site, so this tells us something. But I think that there are many, many people that still believe in monogamy. And the truth is that this site particularly, where it was secret, so their spouse had no idea, and their spouse's physical body was even, because their spouse was having intimate relations with somebody else. So, it's absolutely devastating to these relationships.
Was that actually part of the thrill, I hate to say, was that there was this, it was open yet secret in the sense that this was a very public thing. Anyone could join it, but it had pledged to keep it secret so the person wouldn't know that you were doing this. Because, I mean, anyone can go on a dating website. People have been caught putting up profiles and say, oh, I'm not married. Well, yeah, sure, actually they are, that kind of thing. But this was pretty unique.
Yes, and it was all about really having your fantasies fulfilled and so on. I think that there is a certain personality that tends to cheat. Somebody who is slightly more reckless. They tell me things like they're bored in their relationship. They're kind of searching for some excitement, for example. They're more. It comes slightly easier for them to hide because there's a lot of hiding and lying and secrecy, which a lot of the people who were cheated on, they say that's like the worst part of this whole thing.
Mm-hmm. And yet that might have been part of a thing that the people who were cheating seemed to enjoy.
Yeah, it's like the thrill of it, right? The excitement, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, now that Ashley Madison has been hacked and we've seen the terrible results of this, I'll go back to our initial premise. Can we draw anything positive from this experience? I mean, like you said, can people say to themselves, well, this is a warning sign, or this is a sign that maybe this la-di-da, taking this so lightly is not actually positive or a constructive thing in our relationship or anyone's relationship?
Absolutely. And I think having these hard conversations with your spouse tonight, if you haven't already, just about your view on this whole situation, I think it's really important, and reflecting on the happiness in your own relationship.
And, if one of your clients said, I'm on this site, and I potentially my information is now out there, what would you advise this person to do?
Well, number one, I mean, first, it's really important because what a lot of people are doing is continuing to hide it. It's very important to tell your spouse if they don't know. And I'm even telling clients that they'll feel a sense of relief because it's anxiety-provoking and exhausting to be always lying. So that's number one. And then hopefully seeking couples counseling to deal with the public humiliation and hopefully getting over the lies and the secrets.
Yeah, and the public aspect of this, the humiliation aspect, is kind of unique too. And this goes to the whole question of social media and relationships too. How much more difficult is it now when you're advising your clients in the presence of sites like Ashley Madison and others, in terms of their, keeping what's private? I mean, can we really do that in an age of social media?
Well, this particularly is really hard, and this is a lot of people are getting judged by friends and neighbors because usually when a situation like this happens, it stays within the four walls of the family, and not only for the person who did the cheating, but the person who was cheating on. It's very hard for them to get over it because everybody else has an opinion about it when they know.
Mm-hmm. And that opinion is still quite condemning. Now that Ashley Madison is gone, do you foresee any other sites? I mean, are there other sites out there that are going to take its place, or are people going to say, no, you know what, this is bad enough? People have apparently killed themselves. It's ruining relationships and lives now if this information is out there. We shouldn't go there again?
Sadly, I'm not sure that it will decrease infidelity as a whole. I think that, again, certain people really are more likely to, certain personalities are more likely to be unfaithful, and they might just find another way, whether it's a site or, just meeting people more regularly.
Mm-hmm. What was the average?
I would hope that it would.
One would hope it. Was there a typical profile on Ashley Madison, or was it just, anybody? Is there someone who's more likely to cheat in your experience in counseling than not?
Yeah, so for what I've read, out of the 32 million, about 28 million were men, apparently. Who knows if that's true. But again, it's those definitely feeling, I hear a lot of, I feel neglected in my relationship, I need more physical affection, my spouse is focusing on the kids and the household, I feel like I'm not loved, because love to me actually feels like affection, which I'm not getting. I'm bored, I need excitement. And again, they're used to the secrecy. I have some clients that tell me, Nicole, I can't lie if I tried. But other clients are, it's easier for them to lie. So that type of person where they're okay with lying and hiding. And I think somebody on this site as well isn't thinking about the consequences clearly, because I think they would choose differently. So they're just thinking about getting their needs fulfilled, and they're not thinking about their partner or their family. They're rationalizing it in their head somehow that this is okay. Mm-hmm. It won't hurt anybody, but clearly it blew up in everyone's face, and clearly it's devastating.
Now you mentioned
I'm hoping that will at least be on people's forefront if they're going to act like this in the future.
Right. And you mentioned that most of the people on the site were men, but there were also a significant number of women. Now, were these women who were also in relationships and cheating on their significant others, or were they just looking for people to cheat with?
I think both, like very similar to the men. Even in my practice, I would say that it's quite equal, men and women in terms of infidelity. So with this particular site, I'm not exactly sure why it was more men. But I think the women were on there for the same reasons.
And they would have the same type of motivation. In terms of in your practice, when people, confess this sort of thing, is there, you said it's actually equally, because we tend to think that men cheat more than women. That's maybe a stereotype that should be busted on this show right now.
Yeah, well, they just cheat differently some of the time. So, for example, men have more physical affairs and women have more emotional affairs. Now, this site was purely physical, so likely this is why it had more men on it.
Mm-hmm. I see. Well, you know what? I think if anything, what's happened here, in my opinion, should act as a wake-up call. I certainly hope that it does, and I hope that in some way, can it help your clients, even if they weren't on Ashley Madison, that these repercussions have happened? Can it help them, do you think, be more conscious of how maybe they shouldn't be engaging in this kind of risky behavior?
Absolutely. I mean, even people that are on maybe not on Ashley Madison, but just on other dating sites and they're in a relationship, I think that, this is a bit of a wake-up call that, number one, you can get caught. Even when the site tells you that you cannot, your information is not always as private as you think. But most importantly, that it can ruin lives. Like it can absolutely, the common reaction I hear from people is anger, of course, when they find out that their spouse has been basically sleeping with strangers. And what I've been telling people is just wait it out. Don't make any harsh decisions right away, because when emotion is high, we tend not to be very logical, right? Because we're really, really emotional in that moment. So just wait it out and hopefully seek counseling and see where to go from there.
Okay, well, that's very good advice. Nicole McCants is a psychologist, and thank you very much for joining us, Nicole.
My pleasure.
We've been talking, of course, about the Ashley Madison hack, and it is a very, very serious thing. You probably remember those reasonably lighthearted commercials they had, but with a man singing a ditty about cheating on his wife, and the sort of snazzy ads saying life is short, have an affair. Well, if you were listening to the Toronto Police, what's happened in Toronto, this isn't fun and games anymore, was what Acting Staff Superintendent Bryce Evans told a news conference a couple days ago. And I think that pretty much sums it up, because this isn't about fun and games. There's all sorts of people who are affected, families, kids, and of course, apparently 2 people who even took their own lives as a result of this, which goes to what we were talking about with Nicole, which is that even today, when there are many more open relationships, when people engage in a lot more of different kind of sexual activity, there still is a stigma to cheating, especially when you're keeping it secret. And that, I think, really was what the issue is with Ashley Madison. It wasn't so much that people were actively cheating on their spouse, but they were doing it in a way that was all about secrecy and lying. And as in so many things, it's not the actual act that gets you in trouble. It's what happens when you get caught. You can extrapolate that to so many things. Politics, for example, it's not exactly what you did, but it's the trying to cover it up that gets you in trouble. So I guess the message here is don't cheat, and if you do, don't try and lie about it, because it's just going to make it worse, and in some cases make it really, really bad. Well, coming back after the break, we're going to be talking about a heroic incident, not a cheating incident. What happened on that train in France where a would-be terrorist was foiled before he could seriously do any terrible damage, something that has earned 4 people the Légion d'honneur in France. We're going to be talking about that with Brendan McGarry, he's a reporter and editor for Military.com, here on National Post Radio on Sirius XM Canada Talks, Channel 167. Stay with us.
We'll be rolling down the windows. I bet you will catch a nice second wind.